Hey guys, in this video, we'll go over what the Old Moon boss seals are, and every item you can trade your Old Moon boss seals for to see which ones are most worth it. At first glance, the Perfumes of Courages, Supreme Alchemy Tools, and Supreme Cooking Utensils do look pretty good, along with the limited exchanges 80 stacks and contained boss auras. However, we still need to tie some sort of silver value to each item to see which ones are worth most silver per seal. With that in mind, not every item's silver value can be as informative, as some items are able to be used to generate more silver or used as a quality of life item, such as the Supreme Cooking Utensil and Alchemy Tool. Because of this, we'll also talk about each individual item and their uses to help players understand the context of that item. People who don't life skill won't be able to use life skill items even if they're worth a lot of silver. So we'll also rank items with different statistics to see whether they're worth trading in sometimes, always, or never. So what even are Old Moon boss seals? These items are event seals that come from events that happen every couple months. During these events, you get these seals from defeating world bosses like Kazarka or Karanda, and field bosses like Beg and Dimtree Spirit. The only boss you don't get these from is Vel or Baby Vel. These boss seals do come back every now and then and are definitely worth it to do for the extra silver. If you get into a good boss train for field bosses, you can get some pretty good value. Currently, there is an event for boss seals for the next 2 patches, so take advantage of that while you still can. Now that we know how to get the seals, let's look at what you can trade them for. Starting from the bottom, we have the Supreme Alchemy Tool, Supreme Cooking Utensil, and their repair kits on the left. The repair kits are used to repair already placed down Supreme tools and utensils that have their durability depleted. You can always trade in Supreme Alchemy Tools for Alchemy repair kits and Supreme Cooking Utensils for cooking repair kits in town, so they're basically the same. You just can't trade Alchemy Tools for cooking utensils or anything like that, so be sure to pick the one that you're gonna use. You also can't exchange back the repair kits to tools or utensils, so make sure that you already have one placed down. With that being said, these items are extremely useful for long-term cooking or alchemy, as it has 5000 durability. With enough weight on your character, you would be able to cook or do alchemy for multiple hours without having to check back in. Because of this quality of life, the value of these items for alchemists or cooks are quite high. They don't have a direct silver value because they aren't purchasable for silver or craftable, but if I had to tie a silver value to it, I would say that they're worth around 30 million silver. The reason for this is if we assume advanced cooking utensils are 2.5 million silver and have 900 durability, and morning light cooking utensils have 3000 durability but cost 12.5 million silver, people are willing to pay a big price premium for extra durability on one tool. The Morning Light tool costs 5 times the price and barely sells, while only having 3 times the durability. The Supreme Utensils on the other hand have 5000 durability, so I would say that slightly more than double the price is quite acceptable. Keep in mind that you can only get these from events or trading in cooking or alchemy imperial seals, so they are a little bit more rare, which adds to their value. Now of course, these are only good if you do long-term cooking or alchemy and have the weight to do so. If you do, these are always worth it to buy and give about 30 million per seal. However, long-term cooking and alchemy only contains more low-weight items like maybe red sauce or vinegar, so do keep that in mind. Next up are the 2 perfumes, Khalk's Elixirs and Perfume of Courages. Both these items are event items, so they aren't able to be sold on the central market for silver. However, do have non-event alternatives for sale on the central market, so we'll use those silver values as a marker. Do keep in mind though that if you just want silver, you won't be able to sell these on the central market. Khalk's Elixirs have almost always been cheaper than Perfume of Courages. They give DR, resistance, HP, and percent speed, while Perfume of Courages give AP, HP, attack cast speed, and movement speed stat. Generally, you use Perfume of Courages a lot more in PvE because of its offensive AP stats, but if you're dying, Khalk is a possible alternative. However, Courages always sit around 20 to 30 million silver on the central market, while Khalks right now are only 5 million silver. Because of this, if you're choosing between Khalks or Courages, It will almost always be worth it to get Perfume of Courages for now. I would say that it's only recently that Courages have dropped below 30 million silver, and they usually sit around that. I would say that unless the central market goes crazy and Perfume of Courages go down to nothing, it will always basically be worth getting Perfume of Courages if you do any PvE or even some uncapped PvP. Perfume of Courages is always going to be useful in PvE, and saving the extra silver is pretty nice. Next up is Marni's Unstable Fuel. You can get 2 of these for 1 seal. Each fuel is usually worth 10 million silver, and you can always buy these at NPCs. Because you get 2, this trade would be worth 20 million silver per seal. The Marni's Unstable Fuel is used to tag your gear over to tagged characters using Marni's item tagging system. This can be super useful if you're using multiple characters at a time. However, because this item is sold at NPCs at all times, there is no convenience factor, and this trade-in would only be worth 20 million silver at max. There are also a lot of events that sell Marni's fuel at cheaper, so it may be less value at times. I would say if you don't want the previous items and are tagging characters right now, then this trade-in can be worth it as it's 20 million silver. However, courages are usually higher than 20 million silver, so you would just have to look at which one is more at the time being. Next up are magical shards. Magical shards are really useful as they can be used to craft many different resources and crystals. This trade-in, however, is an unfortunate product of the past and almost impossible to be viable in the current state of the game. You only get 3 magical shards for 1 seal, and you can get magical shards right now for about 1 million silver each, and even when they're heavily inflated, the max I've seen is about 3 million silver. Right now, the trade-in would only be worth 3 million silver per seal because you get 3 of them. The reason this trade-in is here is because magical shards had a moment where they were super annoying to craft and harder to get, but now that is no longer the case. I would basically never do this trade unless somehow the silver value heavily changes in the future. Next up are the Old Moon Alchemy catalysts, which can be used to craft different items along with the Jatina guaranteed pen accessories. Unfortunately, you can buy this at an NPC at any time, and they're only worth 3.5 million silver each. Because you get 4 per seal, in total you're only getting 14 million silver per seal. Since you can buy them anytime at NPCs, they aren't going to provide any additional QOL that you couldn't already get. Because of this, it would only be worth it for the silver value, which is not that high. I would only get this if you simply cannot use any of the items here, or somehow Perfume of Courages drop below 14 million silver. Next up are Yona fragments. They can be used to craft many different accessories and items. However, this is another sad remnant of the past, as right now Yona fragments are worth about 1.1 billion silver each. Since you only get 3 per seal, you would only be getting 3.3 million silver for a seal. The reason they're 1.1 billion silver each is you can just melt down Organ Rads for a lot of Yona fragments. It would almost always be better to get an Organ Rad belt or some other accessories and melt them down. I would basically never recommend doing this trade. Next up is 20 Ancient Spirit Dust, which is worth about 8 million silver at max, as they can be crafted into 4 Caphra stones when combined with black stones. Caphra stones sit on the market for about 2 million silver each and can basically be bought whenever now. This is also a sad remnant of the past, when Caphras were a lot more rare, cost more, and didn't sit on the central market. These days, I would basically never recommend getting this one unless Caphras go up really high. The next trade-in is the Adamantine crystal, and this is one of the worst examples of how the times have changed. You're trading in 5 seals for 1 of these, but they sit on the central market for 250,000 silver, so it's just never going to be worth doing this trade. This crystal is still usable, but just a lot easier to get now and not as sought after as it once was. The silver to seal ratio is simply not real, so I would never recommend doing this trade. The only time it would maybe be possible is if somehow Adamantines no longer sat on the central market and you really need one. Otherwise, definitely don't do this trade. Next up are the 4 decorations that give 1 or 2 hour buffs. The Imp's Boss Knife gives 15 AP for an hour, the Muskans give 20 evasion for an hour, the Goblin Chiefs gives 20 accuracy for an hour, and the Khalk's Wings give 200 stam for 2 hours. At max price, these sit around 100 million silver each. For 10 seals each, at best, it's about 10 million silver per 1 seal. The only one that's going to be super contested is usually the AP one, the Imp's Boss Knife. If you're grinding a lot and simply can't self-sustain AP buff furniture, this trade-in can be okay, but again, it's only 10 million silver per seal. However, if it's during a time where you can't pre-order any Imp's Boss Knives or any of the hunting alternatives, then this can be better than nothing. The other house buffs are similar, but generally give stats that aren't as impactful unless it's evasion or accuracy for PvP, so they're usually easier to pre-order. I would say that this trade can be okay if you're absolutely starved for AP house buffs, but generally not as high silver value as some of the others. Finally, for the always available exchanges, we have the belongings of an adventurer. This is a complete RNG box that can give up to a Tet accessory. However, the community has gotten the rates of this box, and I'll have another video out soon that goes more in depth on the data. However, on average, you're getting about 30 to 40 million silver per box. Now, because this costs 20 seals, this would just never be worth it at all because you're only getting 1.5 million to 2 million silver per seal. Even though this is fun and the most expensive item, it's just not going to be worth it on average. None of the accessories are exclusive and you'll always be able to buy them on the central market. Because of this, I would never recommend getting this box. Of course, you can get super lucky, but the average is still going to be the average. Next up are the limited exchanges where you can only exchange 1 Advice of Valks 80 stacks and 3 contained boss auras for 10 seals each. For the Advice of Valks, it does depend on how you value stacks, but I would say that they're worth at least 300 to 600 million silver each. Now this may be a more antiquated valuation as stacks have been getting more and more cheap over time, but at least 300 million silver for an 80 stack is definitely still pretty worth it in my opinion. Now because of this, it would be worth at minimum 30 million silver per seal, and that is as good as any of the other trade-ins like Courages or life skill Utensils. I would say for most people that enhance, this is a decent trade-in to do and you're only limited to 1. Finally is Boss's Auras 10 for 10 seals. You get 10 Boss's Aura by doing simple alchemy on any base boss weapon. Because boss weapons are worth about 200 to 250 million silver each at base, this trade-in would be about 20 to 25 million silver per seal. If you're using Boss's Aura, this is not a bad deal as it can be annoying getting base boss weapons ordered from the central market. However, if you are doing this event to get Boss's seals, it's likely that you're doing a ton of bosses, and so you may just drop boss weapons by yourself. So now that we know each item, what they do, and their silver value, let's look at the priority of items. I would say that the limited exchange items like the Advice of Valks and Boss's Auras, if you can use them, are pretty decent. The Boss's Auras aren't as high silver per seal, so it's okay if you skip these if you aren't really in a need for them. The Advice of Valks 80 stacks, depending on how you value stacks, can be one of the highest silver per seal, so definitely worth getting if you value stacks highly. For non-limited items, the priority will definitely be the Supreme Alchemy Tool and Cooking Utensils if you do these life skills and are able to cook and do alchemy long enough in one session to use all of the 5000 durability. If you can't use up all the durability, it'll probably be better to just use smaller durability tools. If you don't do life skilling, Perfume of Courages are generally a pretty good bet, as they're currently 20 million silver each and can go up to 30 million silver. You use these a lot during PvE, 3 an hour, so it's definitely useful in PvE. The next one is probably the AP buff for the Imp's Boss Knife, since it is pretty annoying to pre-order the AP buffs. However, if you do have a bunch of these pre-ordered or don't do that much PvE and have a good amount, just go whatever silver value is highest for you. The Marni's Fuel is decent, the limited Boss Aura Trade, and Old Moon Alchemy Catalyst if you're going to be using those. But basically that's the order. Do keep in mind that if for some reason the central market goes crazy and some of these items no longer sit on the central market, don't use the silver value to decide what to get. Just get the items that are more annoying for you to get and that you can use. That's why there's a star next to the AP house decoration, since if you can't get AP house buffs, including the hunting ones, that will be better than saving some silver on Courages for PvE. Again, a lot of my rankings for difficulty is my own experiences, so if you do a ton of life skilling and you for some reason just have a lot of courages, then don't worry about those. Just use your own judgment on which items are more annoying for you to get. But that's basically it for this video. Again, most of these are going to be up to you which ones to get, as there are just so many different playstyles that these items can cater for. I did mention which items are complete garbage in this video, so I would suggest that most people avoid those, like the magical shards or even some of the Yona fragments. Other than those items though, any item on this event trade-in is pretty viable. For me personally, I'm probably going to do the 80 stack and save some of my seals if I ever need any of the supreme cooking utensils. Also, if somehow Perfume of Courages become really rare again and I start grinding, then I might also buy those. Anyways, I hope you all learned something from this video, and I hope to see you all next time.